So I thought I would open up tonight, talk a little bit about some HVAC news. I was on the interweb. I was like, what happens on the internet when you search HVAC news? And it's not just boring stuff like some guy was named COO of Daikin or something like that. I mean, not that crap. Something more interesting. So I brought up some stuff, and I saw something that really caught my eye based on what this show is all about. And I'm going to start with that. So go over here to this place called myrecordjournal.com, and I don't think it's necessarily HVAC related, like a paper, because some of these places are just HVAC media outlets. But this looks like just like normal news stuff. It has this guy, Meridian HVAC business owner, finds fulfillment through career in the trades. And we were talking about trade stuff like this. Like, why don't more people try the trades? Because they end up making more money in the long runs and they don't have the debt. Even if they go to trade school, I mean, they don't have near the debt that they would have if they were going to college and paying for a 4-year college. I mean, I know it. Just before we get into it, the cost of my son's college at the Citadel, if he didn't have any scholarships, it would be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I don't know about most banks, but they don't want to give me hundreds of thousands of dollars, just in general. And if they do give it to me, they're watching me pretty close. So that's not a good plan. A good plan is getting a scholarship. Of course, not everybody can get a scholarship. I never got a scholarship when I went to University of North Carolina at Wilmington, but back then it didn't cost nearly as much as it seems to cost now. When these schools cost 55, 60K a year, and there's extras on top of that, it's hard for normal people to pay for stuff like that. So the kids almost have to get a scholarship. It's one of them things where, you want your kid to have everything, but is it really getting everything? In the case of a regular 4-year college, sometimes trade school is the way to go. Okay, yeah, we're waiting for Biden to cancel the old student debt or whatever. How are we supposed to work that out? Where's that money going to come from? He's going to get it right back from us, guys. A little bit of redistribution of wealth right there, guys. But that's a story for another day. Okay, so I thought it was a cool story. This guy's named Juan Lopez said he discovered a career as an HVAC technician with guidance from Wallingford Adult Education and today runs his own business, which means, that's not a very flashy way to come up. Wallingford Adult Education. It says he runs year-round mechanical that provides heating, ventilation, and air conditioning services. It says at this time of year, many customers call him. And I'm going to skip down to where it talks about his fulfillment. He said that prior to opening his own business, he was already doing side jobs and knew a lot of people in the area. And I think that's interesting right there because there's a huge debate that everybody gets into on should you do side jobs or not? Should you be trying side jobs? And guys, if you want to call in, you can call in. I'm going to continue with a news story, but of course you can call in and chime in. We may not have like a 30-minute conversation, but if you want to call in and talk about the news story, I do want you to do that. This fella says he said that prior to opening his business, he was already doing side jobs and knew a lot of people in the area. Over the course of years, let me put this back on the screen here. Over the course of the years, I started meeting people and one customer referred me to another. Now, I assume this is why while he's working for somebody else. So the work gives him a feeling of fulfillment. I can understand that, absolutely. When you're walking into an elderly customer's house or somebody that hasn't had heat and you're able to get their heat up and running, it's a good feeling, he said. Most of Lopez's customers are Spanish speaking and about 90% are referrals. So it's interesting, since he's Latino, he knows Spanish, and there's a ton of Spanish speaking people, even here. And this is, let me see, because this guy was born in Mexico and came to the U.S., which I think is pretty amazing to come to the U.S. Now you're owning a business. It's pretty good. It doesn't say exactly where it is, does it? Well, even here, we have a lot of Spanish-speaking people, and a lot of times you'll get into a situation where you'll go to a house, and the parents don't speak English, but the children translate for them, which is really, really interesting. So having the ability to speak Spanish is a good thing. Now, this guy here has a great advantage because he was born in Mexico, which is a really big advantage. So someone from Mexico or someone that's Latino may just naturally trust him more than somebody else, which gives him kind of a nice in, and it's able to grow his business faster. All right, so it looks like we have another caller. We'll see who's on the line now. You're on the air.
Hey, Zach.
What's up, man?
How are you?
Well, I'm great. I'm fantastic. I'm just doing this live stream,
I don't know how these guys can run all this side work and work for somebody. Where do they find all this time?
That's a really good question because it's summer.
without killing themselves.
Well, okay, here's me using logic. All right. If you have a person that was born in Mexico coming to the United States and working for a bunch
Sure.
of Spanish speaking customers, I'm going to assume that he lives in a southern state.
Right.
I think that's logical. And then living in a southern
Practical. Yeah.
state, yeah, and it's pretty hot in the southern states. So it's a good point. If you're running AC calls all summer, how do you do any side jobs? I mean, could you personally pull off any side jobs during the summertime?
Oh, I'm too lazy for that. Um, I used to I used to try that when back in my younger days, and it just got to the point where it just wasn't worth it. I was not spending time with my family. Things that should have taken priority fell to the wayside, and at the end of the day, it was for what, a little cash in the pocket, a little fun money.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's stressful, especially when trying to be a full fledged service tech now. I mean, there may be differences from other guys' attributes out there, like if you're an installer working for a company or something like that, and you're just slinging in package units, or maybe doable. But I mean, it's hard being a full fledged service tech, especially in the summertime. Zach, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night is not uncommon at all.
Yeah, I just had some flashbacks while you were saying that. I had a flashback for some reason. I thought of a particular day, uh, and it was years ago. But I had to do a change out or something like that. It was like a change out that took the first half of that day, and then I had to switch out another system, like a coil and heat pump, like a trailer system, just like a Mortex coil and heat pump, at the second half of the day, and it was like 9 or 10 o'clock, and I just remember like I was wiped out, man. I mean, it's
Yeah,
something that, I mean, you do make good money, but I mean, there's a cost. There's a
yeah.
physical and mental cost to doing that sort of thing for an extended period of time, especially.
Well, I mean, and that's another thing too. Like, I mean, how many out of a percentage, how many guys do you think that do side work that say to themselves, this is easy. And like you said, I'm making good money. I should just go into business for myself. And then they don't realize the actual cost that it takes to run a business. And therefore, that side money they were making is no longer as profitable as they thought it was.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, when you're doing the side work, a lot of times you don't have the insurances and the
Sure.
licensure that a business does. You're not pulling permits if it's applicable. Some places you don't have to pull the permits, but I mean,
Right.
typically you're not doing that. You might not even be licensed at all, like a licensed contractor. That doesn't mean you didn't do a good job, I guess. But
Right.
then you have to factor all that in when you start the business, and it really adds up quickly when you got like the $100 permit, $25 inspection. You have to all of a sudden call an electrician because you need an electrical connection and you can't do it yourself,
Yep.
technically under code. That
Yep.
adds up real fast, and that's stuff you forget about until it
Oh
happens.
yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Sometimes you got to learn the hard way with that. Like I know Joe in the chat. I think he's recently hiring somebody, or was in the process of hiring help, and I can only imagine trying to run my own business and then hiring somebody, A, that you trust, and B, that now I have to take care of this person and their family. So now it's even more stress and strain as a
Yeah.
business owner. I
Oh,
couldn't imagine.
that's a great point because when you got someone else, I don't know how all business owners react to having someone that works for them. But if I had someone that really worked for me, I depended on, and they were a good worker, I would feel like almost like a parent that had to care for them
Yeah.
and make sure they were taken care
Responsibility.
of. Yeah, I mean, it's horrible. We got kids and stuff. I mean, you kind of understand, but I don't know. It's just added to, you just want to go out there and fix stuff, and all of a sudden that's like the third or fourth thing in the line that you get to take care of. The first is like you're worried about all this administrative stuff, and I always hated it. I really did.
Yeah. I thought about opening my own business for a while back in my younger days, and it just got to the point where, um, fortunately, I was smart enough to, well, let me just take a quick business class and see what I actually know and see what I'm about to get into. And when you add up all the back end insurance, workers comp, lease, license, everything that's involved, storefront. Well, I guess technically you don't have to have a storefront, but
Yeah.
um, everything that goes into the overhead at that point, and just taxes and everything. I'm like, I'm better off working for a good owner, making good pay and good benefits, and letting him deal with the stress.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It goes back to like if you have lawn maintenance that you have to do, you can cut the grass
Mm-hmm.
yourself, or you could pay somebody. It's like, well, I don't want to pay somebody. I'm gonna save the money. I'm gonna do it myself. I'm gonna keep that money. And then you realize how much
Yeah.
time it took to cut it, and what you could have been doing
Breakdown.
otherwise. And yeah. And then there's the physical strain of having cut the grass and realizing that your back hurts, you're sunburned, and you had to pay for all the gas for the mower, which nowadays it's not a huge cost for cutting your own yard, but everything adds up. It's like there's little bits. There's like 20,000 little bits that add up.